Welcome to the best decks in October 2025 for the Pokemon trading card game, with the newest release being the Mega Evolution set. Now, today, my goal is to give you an accurate representation of the top 10 decks based on my opinion on how successful and popular these decks will be at real life events and even potentially online events in the month of October 2025. And I do want to say that the game is pretty healthy right now, in my opinion. Although there are the same couple of decks that are at the very, very top echelon being piloted by really, really precise players and taking those top few placements at major events pretty consistently. There are a lot of decks to choose from and a lot of variety within those decks to choose from within like the tier 1.5, tier 2. There's a lot of options, a lot of variety. There's even a lot of variety within the very best decks right now. So, just wanted to preface that if the deck that you're excited to play isn't on today's list, that doesn't mean you need to stop playing it. This is strictly from a hyper competitive perspective and attempting to give you the best snapshot of what's on the top players' minds and what decks you are going to need to prepare to play against if you are going to events this month. Now, we are going to start out with some honorable mentions, which just goes to say again, there are a lot of viable decks underneath kind of the tier 1 range. I think if you're trying to exactly win a major event, your choices become a little more limited. No surprise that Gardevoir has been dominating for a long time. Dragapult has been dominating for a long time. So we still see the decks that we expect at the very, very top at most major events, and you'll see that reflected somewhat in today's top 10 ranking for the Mega Evolutions format. But I wanted to talk about a bunch of other cards as well. So, starting out with Ceruledge here, Ceruledge gets a buff from the release of Lunatone and Solrock. Lunatone and Solrock are really good, not only uh, draw engine boost for Ceruledge EX because you're discarding energies to draw with Lunatone, and Ceruledge wants energies in the discard pile. It also gives you a good single prize attacker. And the Ceruledge deck is typically being built with like Legacy Energy as the ace spec to make your Ceruledge a single prize attacker, which can be pretty annoying, and also playing Briar to do some prize card shenanigans. So Ceruledge may be getting even better. You know, maybe if I was making this video a week later, maybe Ceruledge would have its place in the top 10. Right now, I'm just holding a tiny bit of skepticism for it because I think its Gardevoir matchup is significantly worse than Gholdengo's Gardevoir matchup. One of the reasons being is that if they, if you can ever get ahead on the prize trade from the Gardevoir side, you can use Mew EX to just knock out Ceruledge, copying the Raging Amethyst. And then also, they're going to be more disrupted by Iono because they don't have all those coin bonuses to use, but they do have Lunatone Solrock, which I mentioned. So Ceruledge getting a buff. Flareon, the Flareon Tera Box, typically playing Flareon, Sylveon, and Leafeon. This is still a great deck. It's typically not played very much. It's a pretty technical deck. But I could see it getting really good placements in this format from a knowledgeable pilot with again, knowledge on how the deck needs to be built for the perceived metagame. Then we have Mega Lucario EX. This gets a lot of support in the Mega Evolution set, but it won't be making it to my top 10 today because basically because Gardevoir. Gardevoir has been the best deck for a while now, and although it used to be not very popular because there was a stigma around it about being a very hard deck to play, and that carried over from the previous versions of Gardevoir, which were incredibly difficult to play at a high rate. It's still really hard to play them perfectly, but you can actually get more out of it at a lower, more moderate skill level now. So Gardevoir will probably be 15+% again at Milwaukee Regionals this upcoming in less than 2 weeks from recording this video. And so I don't see how anybody can seriously bring Mega Lucario EX to the event if they're trying to do well, and we know that can basically never beat Gardevoir. I'd be surprised if the matchup was better than 30-70. And that's a really hard time to have against the best deck in format that is also now gaining popularity amongst the more general population of players. And then Alakazam, this Alakazam to Dunsparce deck. I've also seen Alakazam to Dunsparce with a 101 Togekiss line in it. This deck not only struggles against Gardevoir, but also against Dragapult. So when you combine Gardevoir and Dragapult, there's probably going to be 30, maybe 35, maybe even 40% of decks that are either Gardevoir or Dragapult in some form. So I just can't say that Alakazam can be a competitive deck right now, with its two worst matchups being two of the best decks. Couple more honorable mentions. I won't have Joltik Box in my top 10 today, but I think it's still a viable deck. I don't have a lot to say about it, but it's pretty simple, and it's fine against anything that doesn't have crazy high HP. Speaking of crazy high HP, we have Mega Venusaur. Mega Venusaur is pretty interesting. There's two main ways you could try to build it. The first is the more popular one, which you're going with Teal Mask, Ogerpon, and Meganium to just be like an aggressive grass deck with a high HP attacker when you want it. The other way would be to play like Crustle and then go for more of like a retreat lock play against decks that Crustle doesn't just wall out completely, because the Bulbasaur has the corner attack that can retreat lock. Then you have Shuckle that can heal your board, so you could do some kind of control shenanigans with that as well. Cynthia's Garchomp gets a buff from this set with the new Premium Power Pro. Fighting Pokemon do 30 more damage this turn. So that's a buff for this deck. And you can also play the new Vitality Forest that lets your grass Pokemon evolve immediately, which I should have also mentioned for Mega Venusaur, because Cynthia's Garchomp does play Cynthia's Roserades, which are stage 1 Pokemon. So if they get knocked out or you're not able to establish them early, you want to focus on your Garchomps, you can then use Vitality Forest to get those down immediately. And then the last honorable mention here, we will talk about Mega Kangaskhan in another deck in the top 10, but Mega Kangaskhan decks specifically, like playing 4 Mega Kangaskhan and then like 2/2 for Retros EX, or playing a bunch of the new Acerola supporter that can wall your opponent from hitting the Mega Kangaskhan. I tend to think these quad Mega Kangaskhan decks aren't going to see too much success at the highest levels, but they do have a kind of a baseline power level of you're swinging with a 300 HP plus Pokemon with tools attached that's doing 200 damage plus each turn, and the card draws cards. So that's a basic Pokemon. So there's not a lot of setup. It has pretty good aggression, really, really high HP, and it's drawing cards. So it's an interesting concept. I just don't think we're going to see it succeed at the highest levels right now. So starting with number 10, we've got Raging Bolt, and there's not too much exciting stuff to talk about here with Raging Bolt. There's exactly 0 new cards here from this 8th place list from the Champions League Yokohama. I do want to note that the Champions League Yokohama had around 6,000 Masters Division players in it. However, it was best of 1 all the way throughout. So they played 15 rounds of Swiss best of 1, and then top 32 cut single elimination best of 1. Even the finals there is best of 1. So do with that information what you will. I think that this deck should have a Slitherwing over Koraidon because of the Pikachu EX Pikachu EX matchups, whether that is Tera Box or Joltik Box or Gholdengo Joltik. There's enough Pikachu EXs running around, I feel, that Slitherwing makes sense to not throw that matchup. Number 9 is going to be Pult Zard, and Pult Zard, I feel like I'm actually liking this deck more and more as time goes on. This is a first place list from a City League, and we'll see a couple of Lily's Determinations tossed in there. Lily's Determination is a very big boost for stage 2 decks, because turn 1, you're typically just trying to bench your basic Pokemon, maybe use a TM Evo, not taking prize cards. Then turn 2, you can use that Lily's Determination again. So you have potentially 2 perfect turns of Lily's Determination for 8, although one of those turns you'll probably be wanting to use an Arven to get specific pieces you need. But in the event that you don't have Arven, the Lily's Determinations can actually find those combo pieces more often than just an Iono. And Pult Zard has, this inherent strength about it with the Dracloak for the draw engine, Dragapult EX having the best attack in the game, and Phantom Dive, and then Charizard EX having really high HP, hitting Gardevoir for weakness, and its damage just gets bigger as the game goes on. And you also get Chi-Yu with this deck, and Chi-Yu is just fantastic against Gholdengo. Next is Marnie's Grimmsnarl EX. This is another deck that will benefit from Lily's Determination for all the reasons I mentioned for Zard. And this deck can even be a little slower sometimes, especially if you go with like the Badoo options. This list, and a lot of lists aren't running Badoo anymore in Marnie's Grimmsnarl. This deck is going to see a strategy of setting up your Frostlasses to spread damage around while you swing with considerable damage with Marnie's Grimmsnarl each turn, and allocating your manual attachments to Monkey Dory to set up a whole bunch of Adrenabrains to use each turn. Since Marnie's Grimmsnarl's Punk Up ability sets itself up, you don't have to manually attach to that. This deck also is using the new Psyduck, which says that your opponent's Pokemon in play, it's not just opponents, Pokemon in play cannot knock themselves out to activate an ability. So essentially, Dusclops and Dusknoir can no longer do their Cursed Blasts while Psyduck is on the board. Number 7 is Charizard Pidgeot. Now, there were 2 Charizard Pidgeots in the Champions League top cut, the top 32. This was the higher placing one, and this one is using the Dusknoir line. It's also doing some other interesting things. You'll see that it has 3 Jet Energy, and those Jet Energies are going to be used for 3 main purposes. Number 1, it can bring Tatsugiri into the active to use that to attract customers to find supporters. Number 2, it can bring Klefki into the active, either to lock your opponent's abilities next turn, or to bring Klefki into the active, shutting off Psyduck, activate your Dusclops or Dusknoir, then retreat the Klefki into your Charizard. The third thing that the Jet Energy can do is replace the need for something like an Air Balloon or a Turo. Since you want the Jet Energies for Tatsu and Klefki, you also have them to get out of a retreat lock or just getting a Pokemon you want into the active position. Although it's not always going to be perfect since you have to attach the energy to do it, it allows you to play those 3 Jet Energies for that consistent use of Tatsu and Klefki, while also having the additional option of getting out of a retreat lock or just getting the Pokemon you want into the active position while using the same deck slots for those cards. Number 6 is Pultnor, and this is the highest placing Pultnor from Champions League Yokohama, 4th place. They are using a couple of rare candy, the 1 jamming tower, of course using 4 Lily's Determination in place of 4 research. Now you're not going to be forced to get rid of resources as often. And then also playing the Eri in there, which is pretty interesting. The Eri can be nice when paired with Badoo. You're item locking them, they can't play their items, they knock out the Badoo, and then you go, Eri, let's get the 2 best items you were saving up out of your hand. So that's a pretty cool card to see included here. I think Dragapult Dusknoir is still quite strong. However, with Jellicent Gardevoir becoming more widely known as a very strong deck, possibly the best deck, and that could be pretty poor for this matchup. And then also Psyduck being released, I think it's knocking Pultnor down a tiny bit. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see. Maybe it's still the best deck in format. I think it's at best probably fighting for like the number 3 or 4 or 5 spot, but I also have decks separated a little bit more as we go ahead, so you'll see that I'll just say spoiler now, Gardevoir will be taking up 2 separate spots because I think the variants of Gardevoir are so different. Before we go into the second half, I wanted to let you know that I did just write a Mega Evolution standard format primer. It's about a 17-minute read, and it includes a meta-analysis, new cards, the best decks and deck lists, things I'm thinking about going into the Milwaukee Regionals. You can read a free preview of this on my Substack. I'll have a link down below for that. You can just click that link and immediately read it. No sign up needed. And if you enjoy it and think you might want to read the whole thing and also get the update that I'm going to put out next week before I leave for Milwaukee, you can purchase this guide for $7 over on my Metafy. Links to the free read and to the Metafy will be in the description down below. And I also wanted to let you guys know, I haven't talked about this on the channel yet. I did tweet it, but I'm officially sponsored by TC Evolutions. They make high quality aluminum die and markers for multiple card games, but specifically here for the Pokemon TCG. I absolutely love their ability used markers. They look so sleek and clean, and so do all their dice, and it makes adding up a lot easier, because instead of adding, you could just grab the dice that says, oh, 170 damage, I'll just put that there. So if you want to have a cooler look to your board, if you think these will help you manage, counting, or take less time to put your dice down, or you want to have nice looking ability use markers, maybe you just want to support my channel, you can use code Celio10 over at TC Evolutions. On to the number 5 deck, we've got Tera Box. Tera Box did win the Champions League Yokohama. It also had some pretty good results in our pre-Mega Evolutions tournaments after Worlds, Frankfurt, Monterrey, and Pittsburgh regionals. This is the first place list from Champions League Yokohama, and the only new card it's playing in here is Lily's Determination. So the Lily's Determination's in here, not because you're trying to draw 8 with it, because typically you're going like Torrential Pump, take 2 prizes, and then like you get Iono'd, or Crispin, Crystal, Pikachu, take 2 prizes, and then you get Iono'd. The Lily's Determination is in here, so you have an option when you're using Jewel Seeker to go search for a card that actually refills your hand. Research could be awkward in this deck sometimes. Iono isn't great because Iono is great if you want to disrupt the opponent, but if you're trying to refill your own hand, you probably already took 2 or 4 prize cards, and the Iono is not going to do that for you. And then you also do have the option of the Judge in case you want to specifically disrupt the opponent while still getting 4 cards yourself. And then this was the 15th place Tera Box from that same Champions League. They are playing 2 new cards in here. They're playing the Mega Kangaskhan with the Run Errand for some draw support. It can also be an attacker in a pinch. Note that they're playing 3 energy switches. And then they're also playing the Mega Mawile EX, 270 HP, and the Gobble Down attack does 320 damage if you've already taken 4 prizes. So like I mentioned, the Tera Box is typically trying to go very aggressive and then just needs to close out those final things. So if you are able to go like Torrential Pump for 2, Pikachu for 2, you've taken 4 prizes, now your Gobble Down does 320 damage. Number 4 is En's Zoroark. So I am giving this a high rating. Some might argue, hey, Pultnor should be in this place, and that would be a valid argument, and I'd love to see the discussion in the comments. But En's Zoroark did just dominate the Pittsburgh Regionals piloted by Liam Halliburton. Absolutely dominate. He did not drop a single match in the entire tournament. I think he went like 15-0-1 or 16-0-1, something crazy like that. So yeah, and Zoroark, why is it good? Well, it draws cards. It's dark type, so it knocks out not Dragapult, Gardevoir, and then it also has the powerful rage attack that it copies from En's Reshiram, which means if you hit this for not a knockout, this is probably knocking you out next turn. The dark energy synergizes with Monkey Dory. Monkey Dory is fantastic. It also synergizes with Pecharunt EX plus Binding Mochi. Because Pecharunt EX can be an attacker as well, you can attach an energy switch and use Pecharunt's attacker, which is a little similar to the Mega Mawile we just talked about. And with the 2-1 Toadscroll line, you're countering Gholdengo. They're not able to use superior energy retrievals anymore. However, if players decide to switch from Gholdengo to Ceruledge going into this new format with the buffs that Ceruledge has gotten, that could be a problem, big problem for this variant of the deck. However, if Gardevoir is still the best deck and Zoroark has a favorite time into it, we're going to see some End Zoroark, and we're probably going to see them succeed. Number 3 is going to be straight Gardevoir, and this is an updated version of Riley, the world champion from this year in Masters Division. It's an update of Riley's list. So really what I've done here is just add in some Lily's Determinations, and I've added in the new Ralts and the new Curlia. Now, in this one, I'm not so sure about the supporter count. I might want 2 Lilies, 2 research instead of 3 Lilies, 1 research, because this only plays 3 vessel. However, when you're playing the 4th vessel, I feel it's much more comfortable to say, yeah, we're just going to play the 1 research that we can go secret box for. Because while research is great for thinning your deck, essentially, because Lily's puts cards back into your deck, but you could still thin other ways. And research is obviously great for getting energies into the discard pile. Lily's is going to be a card that you want to see more often than research a lot of times if you don't want to get rid of your cards that are in your hand, and also because Lily's is going to draw you that extra card if you're at 6 prizes still. Number 2 is going to be Gholdengo. This is a list from that got third place in an online event, and it's using the new Zoroark and Lunatone, which I've already talked about a good bit. We're using Trolley in this list as the A spec of choice to just get your board set up. You go Zoroark, Lunatone, 3 or 4 gimmies, maybe Genesect if you need it, but a lot of times you just want to leave a single prize board. And then you can start attacking with Solrock's Cosmic Beam for 70. You can also consider adding in a Vitality Band in here, maybe a Premium Power Pro to get that damage up if you really want to lean into the Solrock's Cosmic Beam for this deck. But yeah, this looks like how a lot of people are going to decide to play Gholdengo for this format. So we'll have to see. Do you think this is an upgrade to Gholdengo? Do you think the old lists are better? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And our first is going to be Gardevoir with Jellicent. Now, this is pretty similar to the second place list that Aban and Henry Chow and I believe Rahul Reddy and other players whose names I'm forgetting. A group of players played this to Pittsburgh Regionals, did really well. Aban got second place, losing to Liam on Zoroark. So this is just basically this player who got first in a pretty big online event did the same thing I did to Riley's Worlds list. He just took the already successful list, put in the Lilies, put in the new Ralts and Curlia, and didn't really change much else. The supporter lineup here, though, is going to be 4 Lilies, 3 Arven, 3 Iono, and no research. And then instead of 2 counter catcher, 1 boss, 1 counter catcher. The boss can be nice, especially with Secret Box in the deck. However, Guardy is a deck that does want to just use Counter Catcher a lot because it's going behind a lot of times. However, if you are leading with Frilish's Oceanic Gloom and then evolving into Jellicent, maybe your opponent isn't taking the lead, and then boss becomes more useful. So this is the countdown of the top 10 decks, not including the honorable mentions in here, but did want to mention those honorable mentions because I do think those cards are at least worth looking at. And yeah, don't forget, you can find my complete competitive Pokemon TCG Masterclass over on Metafy, as well as the new Mega Evolutions Primer I mentioned. And don't forget my sponsor, TC Evolutions. Use code CELIO10 if you're looking to pick up some of those nice dice and markers. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments down below. I'll have links to the free read of the Mega Evolutions Primer, the Metafy link to the primer, and the Metafy link to my Masterclass all in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time here on Celio's Network.